I'm going to record to the cloud. There we go. All right. We are not live, but we are recording. And I want to just say another special welcome to everyone. Before I go, I'm going to mute everybody. And when I need to get to Ann, I will make sure that make sure you unmute yourself as well. So I do want to welcome everybody to this session. We've been preparing for it for quite some time, and we're just finally excited to be able to offer this wonderful information to you. We keep learning. I learned from Ann as we put together this content, and I know that it's probably the same for her as well. So welcome. If maybe you joined us in the March Manifestation of Health Challenge from way back in March, or you may have joined or seen one of Ann's trainings on breathing that she did, or maybe you're one of my clients from the Raise Your Resiliency Health Challenge that ran in February. Whether you come to us as a client or maybe a NIA client, we are just so happy you are here. If by chance it's the first time for you to take in a training with Ann or myself, then special welcome, very special welcome to you. And we're glad you're part of this learning community, this learning tribe. It is just so much more rewarding when you can learn right alongside other people. So as we kick off here, I do have a question for you. And I'm going to unmute the lines here for us to answer that. So I just want you to think, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident do you feel in your ability to relieve your aches and pains without medication? How confident do you feel in your ability to relieve your aches and pains without medication? Where 1 is not confident at all and 10 is, woo, I got this. So you're unmuted. I'm just curious, just shout out a number from 1 to 10. Where are you on that scale?
6. 9.
Maybe 8.
I'd say about 7.
1.
6.
Yeah, this is good. 8.
Okay.
I'm going to be 2.
2. Okay. I'm hearing 2, 6, 9, 8. All right. We are all over the map. That's fantastic. Okay. Thank you for doing that. I'm going to bring this back up. So I know that just to give you an idea of where we're going today, I know some of you are note takers and you want to know exactly where we're going with the content. So in the first part, first of all, Ann and I will briefly introduce ourselves. We will get to that in just a moment. In the first part, we're going to talk about the 5 keys, those 5 secrets we talked to you about how simple things you can do to begin to relieve that discomfort and the aches and pains. So that's going to be part 1. Part 2, we're going to roll into talking about habits, because habits become so important in your lifestyle patterns. And then thirdly, this is where I think we've got the really juicy part of the material, and that is, what are those warning signs that you should pay attention to now before it's too late? So you'll want to take some good notes there, but don't worry, we've got you covered. If you don't have a pen and paper or you just want to refer back to it, we did create a handout that we will send to you after the call today, after this. We have saved time for questions and answers. We know that's important to you. My recommendation is, since we've got so much information to cover, that as those questions arise, go ahead and jot them down. And we will, when we get to the Q&A section, then we can take those questions. If for any reason it's an absolutely burning question that you need an answer to now, Ann will be monitoring the chat page or chat area, the comment area, and I'll do my best as well. And if we need to break in, we can answer that. Okay, so as we move along, we do ask that you keep yourselves on mute to the best of your ability. And it's okay to turn off your camera if you are not comfortable on camera, or if something happens where you need to get up and move around. Sometimes that becomes shaky cam for everybody else. So just know that you've got that ability for if you're on a laptop anyway, it'll be in the lower left-hand side of your screen where you can stop your video and still hear what's going on. Sound okay? Okay, thumbs up on that. The agreement's all set. All right, let's get started. As you know, this masterclass is about healing pain. It occurred to us, though, that we needed to let you know the context into which we are talking about pain. You know, it can refer to the general aches and pains and discomfort that maybe now they're causing you to think twice about something you normally just would not have given a second thought to. Or maybe it's some sort of pain that now is making you not do certain activities. Like I know that I'm not climbing stairs quite as much as I probably should. So this is the general category that we're talking about with aches and pains, but it can also be emotional or a mental type of pain. I'll talk about that a little bit later and as you'll see. But for right now, if you wouldn't mind just jotting down what was it that brought you here. It might be several aches and pains. Maybe you can just jot down one or two on your pad. That'll help you resonate a little bit more with this information as we give it to you. It'll land a little bit better when you've got something right there in the forefront of your mind. And I'm going to start. I'll model exactly what we're talking about. I promised I'd introduce ourselves. So my name is Yvonne Myles. And my pain tends to be in my knees, both of my knees, and also in my right hip. So I'll write that down over here. Today, though, I am here as the founder of Vibrantly Living You. And this is a health and wellness coaching business that I created a couple of years ago to inspire people who are perhaps caught in lifestyle habits that aren't serving them to be able to transform those habits so that you can begin to experience health that is so vibrant, it's as though you're aging backwards. Now, before I started Vibrantly Living You, I did work in the oil and gas industry for over 30 years here in Houston, oil capital of the world. And I was, in the last few years of my career, the director of knowledge sharing. Now, outside of work, I had the luxury of pursuing my passion, which was and continues to be teaching a dance fitness technique that is also a lifestyle practice, and it's called NIA, the NIA technique. And NIA is a way to condition the body in a beautiful and joyful way, but also to transform the mind. And in an odd sense, that also began to lay the breadcrumbs for what led me to Anne Greenwald and into this lovely collaboration that we have for today. So that's a little bit about me and how I got here. Anne, why don't you go ahead and unmute yourself? And would you like to tell us a little bit about you and where your aches and pains tend to be?
Thank you very much, Yvonne. Well, first I want to say hello to everybody, and it's really great to see everybody's face. And, you know, it's funny doing talks on Zoom and on camera. I'm usually seeing people live in person, and so where do I talk to my lens, and where do I talk to you? And, you know, so we're all new at this, so hang in there. I am talking to you. But anyway, my name is Anne Greenwald, and I am also the health and wellness coach and founder of, I'm calling it AGIFT, Movement Coaching for Healthy Aging. So AGIFT, you know, gifts that we can give to you, but also stands for Anne Greenwald Institute of Fitness Transformation. So I'll just happen to work that acronym work very well. And I also love to help people solve issues related to their health and well-being so that we can move with ease and, you know, feel like ourselves again and do what we love to do. And my chief complaint has been low back pain and my bunions, and I will not show you my feet, so just trust me.
Okay, well, thank you. We will trust you on that. So I know that all of you wrote something down, and I wish we had the opportunity to go through and hear what everybody had to say, but obviously we don't. We just know that something piqued your interest and led you here to us today, and we're very grateful for that. You've taken a big step for yourself. You've taken a stand for yourself into personal growth. Personal growth is, it doesn't happen easily, and it doesn't happen without a compelling reason to pull you forward. There's a saying out there, I'm not sure if you've heard it before, it's pain pushes until vision pulls. Pain pushes until vision pulls. And in a very real sense, the vision that you have for yourself can lead to a compelling reason. It can be because that vision of ourselves is so important. It's about our sense of identity. It's about who we want ourselves to be or who we believe ourselves to be. In a macro sense, if you take, several steps backwards, that's a little bit of what's going on in our country right now. We're trying to figure out what kind of country we want to be. What is our sense of identity? It's that powerful of a force. And so being able to really tap into what is your compelling reason to act or not act, that's the primary reason that we invited you to watch that, what I consider a very interesting, fascinating TED Talk called Start With Why. Hope you had a chance to see it. We, put it into our reminder emails, but if you didn't, don't worry, you can go take a look at it afterwards. So personally, I became aware of my compelling reason why when I woke up to the fact that I was on the wrong path for my health. I had always considered myself to be very much in shape, and that as I grew older that I would be able to maintain that. But I started to realize that that just wasn't true anymore. And that was like getting a slap in the face. Sometimes I call it the cosmic 2x4. And so getting to a point where my sense of identity, the view that I had for myself, where it could come back in alignment with what was really happening, that became my compelling reason why. Because what I wanted to do in my retirement was be active, to travel around the world, to visit friends, to hike in the mountains, and not suddenly being able to do that as easily. That was a very compelling reason for me. So along those lines, this morning, I practically jumped out of bed. I actually got out of bed in a much better way, given how my knees have reacted, because I've been being hyper aware of some of the very things that we're going to talk to you about later, later today. And it felt good to be in a body that felt energized and that I'm proud of, because for so long I spent so many years not being proud of my body, like so many women, a very negative self-image. And that just causes me to be so grateful for the steps that I've taken to this point, because I know what it was like when it wasn't that way. Especially when I roll back the clock to those last 8 to 10 years of my professional career, it just seemed like my body was falling apart slowly. Instead of coming home with the energy and the desire to go out for a run or a walk, I found myself just fatigued. I'd lay down, take a nap. My knees were aching. For the first time in my life, I couldn't control my weight. If I gained a few pounds before, I would just not drink water, which was not a smart thing. And then I'd go out and run so I could sweat off those extra pounds. And it turned out that in order for me to cope with the stress that I was feeling at work, my main coping mechanism was to come home and have a glass of wine. And actually, one glass of wine usually meant 2 glasses of wine. And then one day on the way home from work, something happened. It was that cosmic 2x4 that told me that I had really hit rock bottom in my health journey. And that's the point at which I recognized that my mouth was watering, and it was watering a lot. I knew in that instant that it was watering because I was looking forward to that glass of wine. But the big recognition on that day was that I knew this was not the first time that it happened. It had been happening, and it had been happening at just about the same place on the ride home. I had essentially trained myself like a laboratory animal to expect that reward. I was on automatic pilot. And that was a very humbling, uncomfortable recognition to come to, because I had thought of myself as being a fitness role model. And now I saw how I wasn't living up to that, how out of control I was. And not only that, I mean, just using alcohol for stress relief is one thing, but then, that's what was adding to my fatigue from those sugar rushes up and down, and it was adding to my weight gain. So like I said, I'd always thought of myself in a much better way. And instead, here I was, a stressed out, self-medicating mess. So that's when I knew something had to change. For me, that opportunity to change came through the door in a way I had never expected. And it was that I was given an opportunity to attend a dance training retreat in Spain. Now, I didn't realize it at the time, but this was going to be what set me on this path. I didn't like the fact that I was going to have to buy bigger size clothes, but I went ahead and did it anyway. And I didn't like the fact that the organizer said that we would be served 2 vegetarian meals a day plus a snack. I just thought, I'm going to starve. That's not quite enough food for me. And besides that, where's the wine? But I ended up doing it anyway. And what I did was I brought some protein bars with me to make sure that I wouldn't get hungry. As it turned out, I didn't even need not one of those bars. And that's because these meals we were served were masterpieces of creativity, taste, richness, color, and texture. They were extremely satisfying to me. I was just happy as a clam. Plus I was dancing all day long. So by the end of the week, just 7 days, I woke up the last morning and I noticed that there was space between my waistband and my waist. And I still had plenty of energy and I wasn't, craving these foods. So I made a point of just maintaining that simple strategy of eating mostly vegetarian meals when I got home. And when I stepped on the scale, lo and behold, I had lost those stubborn pounds that had eluded me for, several years. So I learned a valuable lesson through all of this. And that was with simple changes and delicious changes in my diet. And that by incorporating that gentle, joyful movement, that I could lose this weight and without even trying, and that I could heal my joints. My knees would hurt less now, and I could regain not just my energy, but also my self-esteem. I got myself out of all kinds of pain. So that's what led me here today, and that's what my compelling reason was. And could you tell us maybe how did you become aware of what your compelling reason was? What led you to that?
Yeah, thank you, Yvonne. Our stories, are very similar in many ways. Certainly as a fitness role model, and not feeling like I was living up to the role model status. That became definitely where my compelling why when I realized how much I truly loved the freedom of exploring anytime, anywhere. And when somebody calls and, let's go for a dog walk, or let's go for a bike ride, or let's go for a swim, or do this, I wanted to have the ability to, yes, go and do it freely and easily without limping or feeling sore or just feeling bloated and, not myself. So, my story does start this very same way as, whether it's walking in the woods and hiking the mountains. Certainly love biking in the hills here of Vermont and New Hampshire. Many of you guys know as well. And I'm a swimmer. I love open water swimming on the lakes here and even on the Connecticut River. I love the ease and the joy, the flow of energy that brings me. And I know that my body's stable and strong and I can do it. And, I actually always have competitive drive in me and I love to win. And following in family footsteps, I started swimming competitively when I was 5 years old and swam competitively through college to the point where I felt like I was majoring in swimming and minoring in engineering, but that's how much I did it. And, you know, I obviously was swimming a lot. So I was also raised at the time, and being the youngest of 5 children, and, you know, suck it up and no pain, no gain, that kind of stuff. Not to mention coming of age in the world of McDonald's, Fritos, Stouffer's French bread pizza, and individually wrapped American cheese slices. So I don't know if that rings true to anybody, but that was in our household. And I was training so hard that I could eat anything and not gain weight, you know, or so I thought. And I took pride in drinking as much beer as my boyfriend in college. Definitely was that, you know, kind of crazy girl lifestyle at the time. I was living a life of go, go, go and doing millions of flip turns in the pool. And plus horrible eating habits finally took its toll on my body. And over time, I had a couple of episodes where my back completely gave way. It dropped me to my knees, and I had to crawl back into bed, and, you know, not knowing what was going on. And it is, you know, if anyone has had that kind of pain, I'm sure many of you have, but it's like blood shooting out your eyeballs. It's just really takes your breath away. It's that painful and scary, you know, messing around with the spinal cord. You never know really what's going on. And, but all the while my mindset was, you know, I'm fine. I'll get better. I'll fight through it, you know. And honestly, for 20 years, working as a clinical researcher in a busy orthopedic lab and full-time mom, I was teaching between 3 and 10 aerobics classes a week, plus doing my own, you know, daily hour-and-a-half workouts, dogs, kids, you know, the whole bit, life. But after a while, I found I was so exhausted, always bloated, always sore. And, you know, what kind of health fitness role model was I being for my friends and family, and especially for my clients? And it was actually embarrassing and kind of felt ashamed. I felt like a fake. You know, how could I help others if I couldn't help myself? And so that's when my low point came, when I had debilitating back pain and just felt like a fake in my own body. And I knew I had to change something. It also corresponded at a time that kind of kicked me over the edge on this one, was the death of my oldest brother at age 55 from a heart attack. He was shoveling wet, heavy snow. And, you know, so that was kind of a big wake-up call. His death did cause me to reevaluate, you know, what was going on in my own body, as well as others in my family, certainly, and other clients. So I made the decision at that point to put myself on that path of learning about why the body breaks down and how we get so off kilter. So I did study neurokinetic therapy, have gone into many different fitness modalities, and became a little detective on figuring stuff out. I've tried vegan diets and wonderfully successful cleansing diets. And thank you very much, Terry Roman. Little call out to my dearest friend. And they just made me more mindful of what I ate and the consistency of eating. And so I learned enough to become my own expert and advocate in the field of human movement and stress physiology and mind-body health. And lo and behold, I lost 20 pounds, more energy and confidence than ever before, hit my 50th birthday and kept right on rolling, and back pain disappeared. So it was all been a good journey so far.
Thanks for sharing that, Anne. So when you look back over that, why do you think that was so significant for you? What made that a significant accomplishment?
In all honesty, Yvonne, you know, I finally felt like the Annie I knew and loved. You know, the person I'd been before, I'm like, where did that person go? So was able to feel like myself and do the stuff that I love to do. So kind of found myself again.
Yeah, and I have to say that rings true for me as well. It was that sense of identity that I was able to reconnect to. It was like an anchor, you know, that is really quite amazing about this power of having a good, strong, compelling reason. You know, but you and I, we kind of ignored the problem for a long time. Why do you think you overlooked it for so long?
Well, for me, I think it was the fear of the unknown. Like, you know, what I can't see, I can't understand. It's like that with electrical engineering and energy, and that really was hard for me, and feeling helpless and like not knowing where to start, what to do, not only for myself, and you know, you can't see what's going on inside your body, I guess, unless you have good, strong diagnostic equipment, but learning to understand what's going on in the body was the biggest changer for me. But it was the fear of not knowing and feeling helpless is what kind of caused me to want to change in that regard.
Yeah, very similar for me. It was this sense that I didn't know that I had the ability to control what was going on. I was just so trapped in that stress response. Yeah.
And you know, also just the feelings that feeling helpless, like in the healthcare system as well. And I feel like it's more of a sick care system, and they go in and work with one issue, but not necessarily looking at what's going on in the whole system of the body. And I was getting frustrated with that, and knew there had to be a better way of looking at the whole picture and what's going on. And that's why, you know, I wanted to become a health advocate and kind of empower myself as well as others to take health into our own hands a little bit, and instead of reacting to problems, getting lost in the healthcare system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, there certainly are times when we all need to go see a physician. We're certainly not advocating that you not, but it's to become aware of that big area over which you do have control with these small changes here and there. And one of the handouts that we have for you today is the warning signs that you don't want to ignore, with examples of how you can start to take control. You well said about, you know, the healthcare system. It's really more of a disease management system or a sick care system. And I think one of those reasons that it is that way is that when you go to a doctor, they tend to treat one thing, right? Instead of looking at you as a complete system, you know, an interconnected system. Everything is connected. And that can be extremely frustrating when you get caught into that loop of just going from appointment to appointment or specialist to specialist. You
And
know,
I think it's frustrating for the doctors as well, because you know, they're kind of caught in a system too that with insurance and everything, they don't have time and ability to look at, you know, the whole system. They can only look at one little thing going through.
Yeah.
Yes, they do collaborate and they do work together. I get all that, but just not even getting into the system or understanding how the body works was where I wanted to come from.
Sure. You know, and it's not having the full picture oftentimes, whether it's you or your physician or your healthcare team, not having the full picture, but instead looking at it little bits at a time. You know, there's this analogy, or you may have heard the story about the frog that's put into a pot of water with fire underneath. And, you know, at first the frog is feeling great and but the frog doesn't have the ability to notice how the temperature just keeps going up a little bit at a time, until the water's actually boiling, and it's a little bit too late for the little froggy to act. So, you know, that is certainly why we want to put these tools into your hands. And that's what this master class is all about, so that you know what to listen to and you know what to do when you get to that point. So let us get started. I am going to flip over to our slides. First, I shall share my screen to slides. There we go. And here we go. I hope.
I love this first slide. As an engineer, you know, I love using tools and thinking about physics and levers and stresses and strains and all that stuff and applying them to the body. And this one, this picture a quote by Archimedes, give me a long enough lever and a fulcrum on which to stand, and I will move the earth. And we all know how valuable tools can be, and moment arms, and shoveling dirt and moving dirt. A wheelbarrow is amazingly helpful to move heavy loads and acts very much like a fulcrum. So I love looking at how we can control stuff. And from there, you know, we've come up with 5 areas that we can control in our life, that we can make a choice on, a conscious choice. And those levers of age-defying health are posture, movement, nutrition, breath, and mindset. And if you think about it, you know, learning any new skill comes very much into the conscious brain. If you think about the time learning how to drive, and you're very aware of every turn and how you're sitting in the car and putting on the blinker and looking both ways and strines and acceleration, etc., and how to get somewhere, where now sometimes I'll get in the car, I'm like, where am I going? And the car gets to point A to B, and like, how did I get there? So it comes into a habit and a subconscious mind after we've done it so many times. So that's what I'm talking about a little bit, about control and using the skill of making choices. So let's go into the first slide and talking a little bit more specifically about each of those 5 and why we can make those decisions. So with posture, you know, thinking about the alignment of our bones in our body and how we're standing, and over time, like a repetitious motion, that our body will adapt to our movement patterns, and it shows up in the wear patterns in our shoes. I like to think of the analogy of every cell in our body being like a trampoline. So if you put a trampoline into your imagination right now, and it's surrounded by springs, it's a nice big round trampoline surrounded by springs, and you stand right in the middle of the trampoline, you're going to displace every spring equally. And if you're bouncing in the middle of the trampoline, you know, the springs are going to open and close, and that's the exact same way a cell works. So imagine if you're standing on the edge of a trampoline, you're going to displace all the cells, or all the springs, but the ones on that side are going to wear out faster than all the other springs. And that's similar to what the wear patterns. So if you're always standing a certain way or sitting in a certain seat, it's going to develop certain wear patterns on your body. And that's what I'm talking about with lifestyle habits. So, you know, where you're, what kind of car seats are in your car or at your workstation, or how much you're sitting a day, or what kind of shoes we're wearing. And all of that can really change your balance and your self-image.
Yeah. A couple of my clients are on the line here, or on the call, and they've probably heard me say this several times, but our lives are in front of us. Our lives are in front of us. And so as we move forward in our life, as we age in our life, then there is this tendency to want to lean in to that life. And without having the awareness of where you are, what your alignment should be, oftentimes that will begin to throw you a little bit off kilter. Our lives are in front of us. I notice this when I'm brushing my teeth. Why am I leaning over instead of standing up so that my shoulders are over my hips? Or when I'm washing dishes, same thing. You know, is my backside poofing out a little bit? Why can't I just pull it in and stand up more straight? And especially because of this content that Ann and I have been working on, I've been much more focused on the alignment of my ankle, knee, and hip. And that has helped me to retrain, to change some of those wear patterns that causes some of that achiness. So posture it's a great place to start when you want to talk about healing.
And one other thing with that, Yvonne, head position And, you know, we have this big, heavy head on smaller vertebrae. And like you said, the forward position. So if you, with the physics, if you bring that lever, not lever, but the big, heavy head forward, it's going to put so much stress on the neck and change how all of the muscles work down the line. So yeah, posture and being aware of that is huge.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because that reminds me, notice how as people age, they're hunched forward a little bit. So that's a posture. That's a posture response. And so having that awareness will bring more healing and reduce the pain. Moving on, nutrition. We talk about nutrition as being a foundation of life, along with air and water. And we can even throw some other ones in there, like social connection. Your body it's the centerpiece of the body's ability to protect itself. It feeds your cellular function. The foods that you eat, they become you. And so you want to make sure that you're putting the best that you can into you. But in terms of reducing pain and discomfort, there are nutrition. Food is one of the first places that we can and should start for reducing the risk of chronic disease, but also more and more research is showing, and anecdotal evidence is showing, that it can reverse the damage of certain types of illness. When doctors have kind of given you up for dead, as they have in many cases, just by making simple changes to what you put in your body, the quality of food that you put into your body, you can see tremendous, almost immediate benefits. I heard a couple of thought leaders out there in this world of nutrition and food and sustainability say that, well, and it's not just them, doctors by and large do not get any training in medical school around nutrition. They might get one day or a few hours if it's not considered medicine, but food really is medicine. It should be the first medicine. Then you hop over to the food industry, and I'm not talking about the local farmer who's preparing organic food and produce, but the big industrial food complex out there. They're not interested in your health. And you can see that by the types of foods that you find in the center aisles of the grocery store. It's all manufactured. It all just adds to sugar. Or to the production of sugar in your body. And your body doesn't need that. It doesn't need it on a natural basis. So having good nutrition to support cellular health, brain health, and to ward off chronic diseases, even Alzheimer's, certainly cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and in many cases cancer, that is the importance of nutrition when it comes to healing pain, discomfort, and disease, really. Anything you want to add, or shall I move on?
Well, keep going. And movement that Yvonne and I both are, kind of the foundation for us and what we do professionally, certainly. It promotes healing on so many levels. Change the way you move, change the way you feel. It's just going to move your energy around differently. But physiologically, it lubricates your joints, like I was saying before, where exercising the trampolines and the springs of the ligaments and the soft tissue and the muscles in the body, and the circulatory system. So it's lowering blood pressure by getting things circulating as you move. And I'm not talking exercise. I'm just talking everyday moving of the body, strengthening the heart, because we're not making the heart do all the work, but circulating into the peripheral system as well, helping to activate the immune system. So getting the nutrition from we eat circulated into the body takes movement and overall health improvement. And supporting brain health and neuroplasticity. And what is neuroplasticity? It's a big, funky new word that is we can actually grow new neural pathways, and by learning and staying active and looking at the 5 different cognitive functions of the brain. So associated with movement, it's amazing how we can stay, helping brain health in that regard.
Yeah.
Stories on that one, Yvonne?
Yeah, and we talk about neuroplasticity a lot in NIA, these new to me skills. I love this picture here because it is the NIA technique, and the woman in the white tank top is the co-founder and creator of the NIA technique, Debbie Rosas, a true mentor to me, and somebody who has studied the body and movement for years and years and years. And we often say that through movement, we find health. That's one of the taglines of NIA. Through movement, we find health. And that happens to me every single time I step up to the mic to teach a NIA class. It might happen from my level of energy. It might happen from my frame of mind. But many times it'll even happen physically. And just recently, I was having some jaw pain. It was like that TMJ thing where I went to bed one night and I didn't go to bed, but I was eating dinner and there was suddenly pain. I couldn't chew, couldn't close all. It only got worse overnight. The next morning I got up to teach a NIA class, and wouldn't you know that the focus of that routine was about the bones, and the person who choreographed it specifically mentioned the bones of the head, and the only movable one is the jaw. So I even love this picture because even though they're not doing that routine, look at the joy, look at how their mouths are moving. By the end of the class that I taught, and I'm talking just like last week, I think it was, no more jaw pain. Through movement, we find health.
Yes, fourth pillar, breathing. Another foundation of life. And you had said, air, water, nutrition, and we can go a pretty long time. Our body will survive without nutrition. Lord knows we've tested that one well enough. It will go less time without water. It only goes a few minutes without air. And so having the ability to bring oxygen into our system and move stuff around is vital, obviously, to our life. And it does help with energy transfer and cellular function, like I just talked about, but it also calms the body. And understanding how the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system works, of needing to react and respond and fight or flight. If something stressful comes about, you need to be able to have the ability to react and respond and get out of there. Yes, but we've come to a place in our world where that stress is so high, we haven't had the balance of being able to rest and relax and digest. And so we've gotten kind of off kilter. And so practicing breathing helps bring the nervous system back into a place of balance. So as a stress response, it does definitely prepares the body for better sleeping and also better performance. Like Yvonne said earlier in the masterclass today, that I have done a full extra masterclass, if you call it, or training on breathing specifically. So you can catch that on my Facebook channel, and I do send it off as a free gift for anyone who is interested, but definite breathing techniques involved in that. Quick story though, how I learned that, and we talked about our compelling why and what was kind of a game changer for me, or an aha moment. In my swimming career, my senior year in high school, I was swimming an insane amount and had a very challenging coach, and oftentimes I'd find myself on deck gasping and having asthma attacks and having the bag over my head and trying to get my breathing under control. And this coach, brilliant as he was, he finally figured out that I was holding my breath when I swam. So, and I was a sprinter, so going super fast. I'd have my head in the water, swim, quick turn. I'd have to exhale and inhale very quickly, hold my breath. And so oxygen was not getting delivered into my system, into my arms and my legs. And my body went into a reaction of survival, causing me to stop what I was doing. Like I said, you can't live without air for too long. And so learning how breathing truly helps performance, because when I learned to exhale underwater, my swimming got significantly better. My endurance was, bazillion times better.
Ooh, that would be compelling for me, without a doubt. And it's so curious that you said it was about the exhale. So often when we hear about breathing, it's all about inhale slowly. We don't really think about the exhale. And yet just the simple act of breathing can relieve so much mental, emotional, and in your case, physical pain as well. Thank you for sharing that. Our last tool is all about mindset, mindfulness, minding your mind. You have to have the right kind of mindset in order to take in new information. You can see the difference between these two different mindsets. One is a growth mindset, one where the other one is, fixed in place. One is about accepting these new challenges, whereas the other one wants to keep them at bay. Liking to try new things versus, being put off by those. That new mindset that I brought back with me from Spain made all the difference in putting me on this path to much more easeful aging and feeling good in my body and reclaiming the view that I held of myself. I went into it thinking, I'm not going to have enough to eat. How dare they feed me only vegetarian meals? And I came out of it saying, I need to try this and see if this will work for me for an extended period of time. It's not deprivation. I feel celebratory. I feel celebrated. I feel good. So that's the importance of having the right kind of mindset. Gratitude is also important. I'm sure you've heard a lot about, write a gratitude journal. And there's a real reason for that. Gratitude, when you express gratitude, when you spend a few moments reflecting on that, then it releases oxytocin. That's that hormone that makes you, it's the love hormone. It's the same hormone that got released in Anne after she had her babies. It's that overwhelming feeling of wanting to connect. So that is why spending some moments to focus on what you're grateful for is so important. And of course, awareness. This is what this masterclass is all about. It's to build the awareness of what is within your realm to control, and then to be aware of these things that may have just, you haven't paid much attention to. And it also determines your response to stimulus. So those are the five elements, and or the 5 secrets. And that's going to lead us, actually,
Yes, Yvonne.
have a little poll, right?
Little poll.
Well, let me stop sharing.
So this is a super fun Zoom thing that you can do. We can put a poll, like a question, up on your screen, and we're going to ask you to fill it in. And the question is, which of these 5 elements would bring you the greatest health benefit? And I'm sure on every one of them, you were saying, yep, yep, at least that's how I am, certainly. I was like, well, that was number 1. No, wait, maybe that's number 1. But for you right now, what would you think that is?
If you're on the phone, you might not be able to answer this, or if you're on an iPad, it might be a little more challenging. But those of you who can easily get to it would love to see. Oh, look, we've got 50%. Look at that. Posture seems to be the one that is getting the most attention here. This is very good. Are you making a note of this, Anne?
I definitely am making a note of it. Absolutely.
Okay. So tell you what, let's keep this poll open for about 5 more seconds. And we are going to end the poll. 72% of you vote. Look at that here. Oh, let me share the results so everybody can see. So posture and movement. Look at that, posture and movement. So it sounds like a lot of you are feeling pretty good about your nutrition, your breathing, and your mindset. But posture looks like it is the area with the greatest amount of room for improvement. Yeah, second only to, or movement is second to that. Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that. I hope you found that as interesting as we did. All right, I'm going to stop sharing that and close this out, and let's get back to our slideshow. Share my screen. Multitasking all the while. Share that and play. Okay. All right. So now I heard this, I saw this quote by Ocean Robbins, who is, I don't know if he's a founder, co-founder, but part of the Food Revolution Network, to which both Ann and I belong, and I'm learning so much through this. At the end of the day, what shapes your destiny is not your willpower or your aspirations. More often than not, it's your habits. Deepak Chopra also wrote in his book, Ageless Body, Timeless Mind, that a balanced lifestyle is one of the most important steps towards slowing the aging process. A balanced lifestyle. So we're really looking for balance here. And now this is me, this is my opinion. Your lifestyle patterns are built from your habits. You know, the lifestyle that you create for yourself is based on habit after habit. And you know, Anne talked about a habit a little earlier, in that it becomes that pre-programmed part of the brain. It allows your brain to do higher level functioning when you don't have to break down every single step of the way of to tie your shoe or to turn on your car engine. So habits are very important in our lives, but what happens when they're out of whack? So let's take a real quick look at habits. So we're into part 2 of our presentation today. Charles Duhigg was one of the first people who, first in the last 10 years, I'll say, to really study the impact of habits in a book that he called The Power of Habit. And then years later, somebody came along, a protege, I guess, who was also fascinated. His name's James Clear, and he returned to this very important body of work, and he created this book called Atomic Habits. And both of them, as you can see, broke down a habit into 4 simple steps. Every habit has a cue. There's a craving that follows it. And based on that, a response and a reward. The environment or the situation that you're in is what creates the cue. Remember me driving home from work. The same spot on the freeway was the cue for my mouth to begin to, for me to begin to crave wine and my mouth to begin to water. So then after that craving comes the response, and then it's almost always a strong enough pull that it's going to cause you to go after the reward. Every habit, every single one begins and ends this way. So if you want to change a habit, you've got to interrupt the cycle somewhere. So it's either change a habit, or if you want to even create a new habit, you've got to interrupt the cycle. So what is a craving? Simply put, a craving is what occurs after a cue. And I like the way James Clear described a craving as being, it's a desire to change your internal state. Something inside of you it wants something else. So once we become aware of the cue, then it creates a desire to change that something, to get that something that we don't already have. And it might be comfort, it might be something sweet, or it might be stress relief like a glass of wine. And we might not even be aware of it, of the cue, like I wasn't for a long time. I wasn't aware when I hit that place on the freeway that that was my cue, but I was darn sure aware of the craving inside of me. So for the longest time, for me, going to the movies, just the thought of going to the movies was a cue for me. And that cue only got stronger. It had even more power to it as I stepped into the theater, and then I could smell this aroma coming from the concession stand, and I would just have this intense craving for popcorn. And it wasn't just the popcorn I was craving, but also the salt and the butter and the crunch. It would light up those pleasure centers in my brain. And again, my mouth would start to water in anticipation. So my obvious response to the cue is that I would step up to the counter to order my popcorn. And then shortly afterwards, I'd receive the reward for that once I had settled into my seat, and I would get that satisfying taste and the crunch in the darkness. even as the preview started to play. So here's how I eventually learned to break that cycle and replace the bad habit with a better habit. First, I had to become aware. And this is what I started to notice about how I felt immediately after I ate a bag or a tub of popcorn. I became aware that I felt uncomfortable. I noticed that if I was supposed to go out to eat dinner with friends after the movie, that my appetite for something that was more satisfying than popcorn, higher quality food, that I didn't have room for it. I also noticed that I had this unpleasant, almost metallic taste in my mouth, and that was from that melted butter, that manufactured melted butter. I also noticed that I couldn't quench my thirst, that I would be thirsty for hours afterwards, even sometimes into the next morning, no matter how much water I drank. And my fingers were always greasy, you know, immediately afterwards. And I just didn't like that. I didn't like putting them on my clothes. So the cue was definitely still there, but through my awareness, the reward that I associated with the cue, you know, had changed once I became aware of it, and I stopped craving it, and because I stopped craving it, I was able to change my response, which was I can go into a theater and not automatically order the popcorn. In fact, it's almost the opposite. I almost get nauseous from the smell of this manufactured butter. It just makes me almost queasy. So that was one way that I interrupted this cycle. I changed how I felt about the reward. You can also do things where you change the cue. You know, like if somebody goes to an office, or you walk around the corner and there's a Starbucks and you automatically want to go in for the sweets, then you can change the environment in the context in which the cue presents itself by not going around that corner. So in that way, you begin to create a new relationship to the cue, and therefore to the craving, the response, and the reward. And we share a little bit more about habits in the next level training that we have, and we'll describe that to you before we get to the end of this master class.
I'd like to add something on that, because, you know, my brain is like, okay, here we go. You know, most of the poll was about posture and movement. So thinking of habits, you know, what you were describing, Yvonne, was beautiful about nutrition and food and like those kind of stimulation things, that what's going on physiologically. But thinking about posture and movement, my example that's been coming up for me a lot lately is pain in the neck. It's not a pain in the, you know where, but it's a pain in my neck. And many of you know, Rick and I sold our house in Norwich, and we're living in a beautiful rental place, which you are in right now, in Hanover. And so we have different habits of where we're sitting. And so we have breakfast every morning, and at our table, we're sitting across from each other and we're reading the Valley News. And, you know, the Valley News is on my left side, and I'm eating here, and he's opposite me, whatever. And so my head is turned, and I'm on a stiff chair, and I'm leaning forward. So getting back into your leaning forward thing, I swear to God, my neck is killing me. Plus being on a computer all the time. So I'm just kind of being aware of, okay, where am I moving? What am I going to? And so with neurokinetic therapy, retraining the brain is understanding, okay, what is that movement pattern? How am I going to tell the brain to maybe turn off certain muscles that are overworking and turn on certain muscles that are underworking, so we can change a habit of how we move and how our brain is sending those signals. So that's a lot of what I deal with, and in terms of changing habits.
Wonderful. Yeah, well, I like this quote from Gandhi. Who would have thought we would do this in a posture nutrition movement workshop? But keep your thoughts positive, because your thoughts become your words. Keep your words positive, because your words become your behaviors. And you want to keep your behaviors positive, because your behaviors become your habits. Keep your habits positive, because your habits become your values. And then your values become your destiny. So there's a reason we put all of this together You know, it's your why. Once again, going back to your why, your compelling reason. If it's to feel like yourself again, then your destiny is going to depend upon good health. And so in order to establish that good health, that lifestyle, you have to pay attention to your habits.
And the 5 things that we all want: love, joy, purpose, health, and freedom. So looking at those different things and how you think about them and how you're giving it and receiving it.
Yeah.
So,
Unbelievably, and I do mean this, unbelievably, we've reached the halfway point of this presentation. What do you think we should do, Anne?
change the way you move, change the way you feel. We need a dance break.
Oh, I agree.
So when you're sitting at your computer too long, if you're sitting in a chair, it is time to get up out of your chair. You know, I don't have much space, but we're going to be doing it here. Yvonne's going to put some music on. So I invite everybody to get up, move around, move to the music, and take a little break, Steve, for right now.
Yeah, it's
And that can be shoulder shimmy, head shimmy, and shake it out. Yvonne, I can't hear the music.
Oh, you can't hear it? Okay,
Nope.
let me try it again. You're supposed to be able to hear it. Sharing. I wonder if it's because it's not. Okay, advanced that. Let's try this again. It was playing over here for me. Music.
That was perfect.
Yay!
Oh my God, it was so fun to see you guys dancing too.
Yes, indeed. Never a dull moment. Never a dull moment. Okay, thank you for indulging.
Very good now. Okay, thank you.
Let's get
Big
back.
breath. Here we go. Yeah, right on.
Feel refreshed. Is your brain refreshed for us to move on to the next thing? Okay.
Water.
Let's see. You are seeing the screen, right, Gandhi? Are you seeing Gandhi?
Seeing Gandhi.
There you go.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to move into the next, kind of last part of this class today, and just a little review of, the 5 things we all want: love, joy, purpose, health, and freedom. But the 5 things that we can control in our life to get there, of our posture, our movement, breathing, nutrition, and mindset, and understanding where we are kind of on the scale of things. And so we often, it's important to pay attention and to learn to listen to what our body is saying. And then taking action upon that and not ignoring it like I have forever. It became vitally aware of that, and like many of you have been through this already, but I am officially post-menopausal. But what that means is hot flash central, and comes and goes, and it's so interesting to me to figure out like where that correlation is and why those hormones are kicking in at any particular time in the middle of the night or during the day or any thought process. So listening to kind of what's happening and is it okay or not okay. So Yvonne and I talked a lot about what different warning signs were that we wanted to be aware of and what comes up a lot with our clients. And we came up with a list of 11. It starts with headaches. Headaches are, can be outstandingly debilitating and annoying, or they can be kind of subtle and whatnot. And they're an indicator oftentimes of a lot of stress and can be dehydration if we are not lubricating our cells and our body to bring the nutrition around, or with a lack of oxygen. So if the oxygen is not getting to the brain and to the rest of the body, we go into shutdown mode. What can we do about it? Yeah, drinking water, sitting in a garden or going outside, taking a deep breath, practicing breathing techniques. And like we did just now, shaking and moving our bodies around in nice, easy ways. The next on our list is nausea. So what is an indicator of? Yeah, when you have butterflies in your stomach or anxiety or worry, but it also can be related to poor food choices, toxins that are in our environment or even in our food sources, and food sensitivities. What can we do about it? Intermittent fasting, drinking water, yes, and just rest and relax. When we talked about that, responses of the nervous system, so learning how to calm our system down, which doesn't involve taking a deep breath. Shortness of breath, number 3. Our breathing rate is very indicative of our health, and a normal breathing rate, so if you measure how many times you breathe in a minute, and inhale, exhale 1, inhale, exhale 2, normal breathing rate's about 6 to 7 times per minute when you're not thinking about it, when it's a subconscious habit. And when you start getting up into the 10, 12, 15, I have a client actually who's up in the 20 range of restful breathing. It's like very short breathing. Indication, yeah, maybe it is anxiety, fear, but it can be from overeating and circulatory issues. So what can we do about it? Sitting in a quiet place, focusing mindfully on breath so oxygen gets down into the system, extending the arms overhead and behind, and the living room, which is our thoracic cavity where our heart and lungs are located, expanding that and opening it up. So, just kind of moving our body in that Supergirl motion. And then reducing serving sizes. So I think, Yvonne, you had talked a little bit about that, of your waistband when you were in Spain. So how that can change with that. Then getting into number 4, which is low back pain. And sort of feel like a little bit of an expert on that just because I've had to deal with it quite so much. And it can be just from how our body's adapted to sitting and the shoes we wear and how we've moved over time and the different stresses that are on our body. And that can lead to scoliosis and spinal stenosis, narrowing of the spinal canal, and unbelievably intense pain and imbalances in the body. What can we do about it? Yes, yoga, working on our posture, alignment, dancing. Nia, can you put some more into that one, Yvonne, for us?
Yeah, just definitely posture is an important part of that, especially if you find yourself sitting a lot and then having that ability to move the tailbone a lot. We wag the tail in Nia many times and we shimmy, and that's just helping with getting that circulation that you need and giving your muscles a little something to do.
When we're sitting a lot, yeah, it kind of pushes a lot of pressure on that sciatic nerve that is right under our backsides. Good advice. I love wagging my tail and shaking like a dog. Okay, number 5, under warning signs to never ignore, changes in your gait and limping, compensation patterns. Yes, if you fall, get hurt, but arthritis a lot of times is wear and tear on particular joints that is very painful. So your body wants to shy away from that, and it starts moving in a different pattern. When we're trying to know where we are in space, we're going to change what our feedback loop is. And so, yes, it can be an indicator of, arthritis, joint pain, imbalance in muscles, loss of flexibility. So what do you do about it? Yeah, stretching, but I like to do very purposeful stretching and know which muscles are overworking, which are underworking. And that can, easily moving the hips side to side, front to back, so working a lot through the pelvic girdle can help the whole system. And rotating the ankles, starting with knowing where your feet are hitting the ground and how you're walking. Are you, naturally turning your toes out, naturally turning your toes in? What's that doing up the line to the knees? I've learned from my orthopedic history of the knees are the stupid joint. They're going to go where the hips and the feet go. And so if your feet are turned out or your hips are super tight, the knee gets kind of stuck in the middle there. Number 6, cramping. Cramps in the lower abdominals, cramping in the legs, restless leg syndrome. It's a weird thing. And for any of you who have, rolled over in bed and woke up at the start of an intense cramp in your leg or in your foot, and you're like, doing whatever you can to work it out and ease it up. It's one of those, blood shooting out your eyeballs things. But what is it an indicator of? It can be a lower, abdominal muscle imbalance, or could be even like a hernia or something in the lower abdominal area that's starting to protrude a little bit. But also digestive tract issues, because in the lower abdominal, certainly where the bowel and bladder and the lower intestine, and if you have issues with that will leading into nutritional deficiencies, dehydration comes into play again, circulation issues, neurological disorders. So cramping is kind of a big one that you need to pay attention to. What can you do about it? Breathing exercises, certainly with a focus on the diaphragm and the pelvic floor. Drinking water, of course, but also knowing what nutrients to add. And I do have a pretty extensive intake form where I'm looking at all different symptoms and how they're related to which nutrients are coming in. So if anyone's interested in that, I'm happy to talk more about that. Number 7, tingling in the extremities. So pins and needles, hands and toes, even neuropathy where it's numbness can be a indicator of loss of circulation, loss of oxygen, nutrients to the cells, and loss of neural integrity. We were talking about how signals are sent from your motor cortex, and if there's an injury or a blockage along the way, sometimes those signals don't go where they need to go. So understanding, okay, where's that block coming through and what can you do about it? Yeah, drinking water, gentle movements to kind of open up that energy, dance, that focused release and activation of certain muscles that I had talked about earlier. Number 8, lovely concept, incontinence. An indication of pelvic floor muscle imbalance. Can be uterine prolapse, stuff going on inside of us. And interesting of the conscious, subconscious control of that, and how young athletes have issues with incontinence. Certainly as we age, that can be an issue over time. Because it's embarrassing and we're holding our breath. And so there is an imbalance in how our pelvic floor muscles are working and how the diaphragm opening and closing. So a lot of incontinence comes from holding our breath and stressful situations. So what can we do? Yeah, breathing exercises. That is focusing on the diaphragm and the pelvic floor. And incontinence is another whole, kind of class into itself. Number 9, ringing in the ears, tinnitus. Yvonne and I can't quite figure out how to say that word. So if any of you have the absolute yes on how to say that, please chime in and let us know. And our ears are a place of balance, our diaphragm place of balance, and feet are a place of balance. And so when you have ringing in your ears, it gets very off balance. You get dizzy and it's not so fun. Can be a sign of dehydration. But what you alluded to earlier also, Yvonne, was the jaw and neck muscle imbalances. If you've had a lot of dental work, that will lead into imbalances that will result in ringing of the ears. So drinking water, shaking your body, kind of moving the head around and getting some jaw work done, helpful with tinnitus.
Yeah, so I'm curious, how many of you have experienced that ringing in your ears? A show of hands. Yeah. Okay, a few of you. Okay. Yeah. And it's funny you said your balance is affected by your ears, and there was a point when I was learning about Chinese medicine. I was really fascinated by it, so I was taking some classes, and in the Chinese medicine tradition, the ears are shaped like kidneys, and the kidneys, of course, is what's filtering, your blood and, the liquids that you bring into your body. And I thought how fascinating that was, that one of the remedies for tinnitus or ringing in the ears is to drink water. And sure enough, when I find that I haven't been drinking enough water, then that sound becomes very, very loud. So it's just fascinating to me how even the east-west ways of looking at things, now they're starting to converge, that it all comes back to the same thing: drink more water.
And vertigo and so dizzy feelings, ringing in the ears, vertigo is definitely a dehydration thing. So thank you, I love that. Learn a new thing every day, which I love. So getting back and finishing up our list, big one, loss of physical balance. We say loss of balance on every system in the body, but what we're speaking of here is loss of balance, tripping, hazards, falling, hazards, or the risk of falling, and indication of, dehydration. Loss of neural responses, the proprioception of where our body is in space. So those feedback loops have been disrupted or are so tight you're not listening to where it is in space. So it does take a lot of practice to have the feelings in our feet come up through our bodies. And if you've had any injuries or joint replacements or arthritis, it will disrupt that neural system, and the proprioceptive feedback loop will be definitely challenging, because we want to keep our balance mostly through life by clenching our toes, clenching our jaw, holding our breath. Those are all ways to keep our balance, but that gets us truly out of balance. So drinking water, using your hands, to touch where you are in space. One thing that many of you know that has seen my stuff or worked with me is rolling our feet on a tennis ball. So opening up the soft tissue underneath the feet. Relaxing our face muscles, doing a little bit of work there. Huge way to improve balance, believe it or not. Stretching the hip flexors, because we are in a seated position, so getting that balance with shortened hip flexors and turned off gluteus maximus. So getting that in balance is another way to control the loss of physical balance. The final one is joint pain and stiffness. The big pain of all, inflammation, dehydration, and arthritis is what those are indicators of. We have, every joint has a bunch of bursae around it, so our body will protect itself if we do get hurt and it needs to get inflamed, but that is not a normal, like chronic, if it goes into a chronic place, then we know there is a major imbalance somewhere else in the system. And I talked about already of loading systems over time will bring up arthritis, and dehydration makes it worse because we're not bringing the nutrients into the system. So a lot has to do with drinking water and, you know, just moving, like walking, swimming, dancing. And Yvonne, can you speak to the reducing of acidic food intake?
Oh, yeah. You know, sometimes certain foods have a higher acidic value to them. I've heard of nightshades like tomatoes and I want to say even eggplants, maybe some, no, I won't go squash. Eggplant doesn't seem quite right. But sometimes just by cutting back on the amount of tomatoes or tomato sauces, you can reduce the amount of acidic buildup, and that is also going to affect the level of inflammation that you have. This is what I've heard anecdotally. I've played around with it now and then with myself. I certainly feel it in my tummy. And so I'll back
For
off.
those of you who work out, you know, at pretty high levels, go into the anaerobic zone where you're not using oxygen so much to supply energy to your system, your body does produce lactic acid as a waste product. And if that is not, and then if you're eating acidic foods and you can't get rid of that, it does go into stress level, and that's where the inflammation responses come about. And so if you can't, your body can't control those. So if you have excessive joint pain and stiffness and arthritis over time, maybe some of those systems are off balance is what we're getting to.
Yeah. And certainly you notice how many times Anne has mentioned dehydration, so drink water, and how many times she's mentioned movement, and usually we say dance. These things, you know, they get things moving and flowing in your body so that you can move with ease. That's one of the reasons that I love the NIA technique so much. It addresses pretty much all of these as well. So lots of approaches.
So dance breaks, plus they make you smile. It's fun. But knowing, you know, it doesn't have to be exercise for a chance, you know, and moving however you like to move, but keeping things flowing and moving and range of motion so we don't tie in. But there's so much into this entire body that goes into that, and mindset, big one, and how we respond to different things.
Yeah. So what would you say the overall significance of this handout is, Anne?
I would have to say that, you know, it takes time, and just listening and realizing that you can that there is a reason for everything, I guess. And it's a process to kind of start figuring things out. But once you get everything in alignment, and, you know, it doesn't happen all the time, we can get thrown off alignment very quickly, but having that little voice saying, okay, maybe this is not the right thing, or maybe this is better. Knowing where to move forward in all of this and how to balance it out in terms of where to start. And
yeah, plus it's just a lot of good information to have on hand about how your body reacts to certain stimuli. And it's something you can take with you to the doctor's office. You have more information to share when you're in a consultation with a doctor about what's worked and what hasn't worked. And it's another great way to start seeing yourself, your whole body, as an integrated system instead of just the little pieces and parts. Yeah.
that's perfect. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So we like this saying from Viktor Frankl, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. We started this session by talking about you now being on this pathway for personal growth. And this whole section that we've just spoken to is about recognizing certain stimulus or stimuli, right? So that you can now choose your response. For so many people, the automatic response is, you know, go to the doctor or go grab the next piece of medication. But you have so many more other tools at your disposal. And then that gives you the freedom to choose to take control of your life and to take control of your pain.
That is, you know, I just want to breathe into that statement. That has been such a game changer for me, as well as my response. When a stress comes in or something, you know, crazy happens, I'll like respond and, you know, like a knee-jerk response to certain things. And it just leaves me upset for hours and discombobulated, and I can't think clearly. But once I learned that I have a little space, so to step back after a crazy stimulus and keep like a control bubble around me, so to speak, it opened up the world. Like I was always too busy. I couldn't do anything. But then when I realized, in fact, I did have time to take that breath, and that's where, yeah, truly growth and freedom and lack of pain and better health has come about for me. So I loved that quote. Thank you.
Yes. All right. Well, now we have arrived at a time for let's hear from you. We've been doing all of this talking, and we know you may have some questions and answers. I'm going to unmute everybody for right now, unless it becomes too hard to unmute all. Oh, okay. Everybody's unmuted. So, well, almost everybody's unmuted. What sort of questions do you have about the material that we've covered so far? Deborah Jane has a quick hand up. You're going to have to unmute yourself. It looks like I'm not able to unmute.
Hi, how are you guys? Thank you so much for doing this, Yvonne and Anne. Good to see you. I have a lot of things I'd like to talk about, but the thing that you were just talking about Viktor Frankl with the fonts and choosing time in between to think about it, I've just taken an Osher mindfulness class, and it's been really eye-opening and helpful in regard to that time that you're talking about. And then just in terms of a couple of other things, that you pronounce it tinnitus.
Okay, thank you.
And that can also be caused from an inner ear infection. I have a nursing background, so I just have some things to add.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate it. Absolutely.
Yeah, other things to think about. Well, I can talk to you, Anne, but there's just a few other things that I'd like to add.
Awesome.
And I was wondering what you guys think about, and you had mentioned a cleansing diet. I think nutrition is super important, and I have arthritis, so I was really happy that you talked about the nightshades and the acidicness in diet. I was wondering what your experience is with the cleansing diet. And also, I've tried the Mediterranean diet. And there's one other one. I can go get my book. It's a really good book. But I have found that it's really difficult to keep on a diet with other people in my house.
I would love to address that, Deb, because we all have boys and, you know, men in our life that like to eat a lot and whatever. So the cleansing diets that I've been happy to be a part of is through Isagenix, which is a nutritional company, health and wellness company that have shakes and cleansing diets, and they have changed my world. It's intermittent fasting. So it's giving your digestive system a break, but we're flooding the system with nutrition of vitamin B complex, magnesium, A, all the stuff that we need to replenish and get kind of the toxins to flush out while supporting the body throughout the day, and having a group to do it with for support and accountability, all the difference in the world for me, because I am definitely susceptible to a lot of food addictions and a lot of voices in my head, and having different people in the household influence different things. So I can appreciate that completely, but have had more energy and more clarity than I have ever known in my life after coming off of a cleansing diet. And it's a lifestyle change. So I don't do a cleanse all the time. It's kind of like changing your oil. So I tend to do a big cleanse like 4 times a year. So I want to clean out the inside, take a shower on the inside, so to speak, and kind of clear out the different toxins, but then replenish them with, great nutrition and good habits. And, it is fun, like Yvonne, to cook all different fun foods and have the rainbow diet kind of thing.
Yeah, and I'll jump
Really
in.
good cookbook. It's an anti-inflammation cookbook. I can quickly get it and show you the cover if you'd like.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be great. While she's stepping away, I'll just mention that I've done 1 or 2 cleanses in my time. My mindset was against doing cleanses, but I did join a group. I think it was late last year, and that was important to have that group support and some guidance through it. And it was just for 10 days. And what I found was that, and what I'm learning is that it takes about 2 weeks for your taste buds to regenerate. And so over the course of just about 2 weeks, you can have a completely different reaction to food than you would have had before the cleanse. And I remember in particular, I love sweet potatoes, and I was eating a lot of sweet potatoes as my starch or my carbohydrate for the morning. Well, I couldn't do that during the cleanse, which was really tough. But after coming off that cleanse, oh my God, a sweet potato, it tasted like biting into a candy bar. It tasted that sweet. So it is a wonderful way to reset what your body really wants, because your body doesn't really want a lot of added sugar or a lot of the carbohydrates that we tend to eat, the simple carbohydrates that break down into sugar right away. And let's just get clear right away that all vegetables and fruits are carbohydrates. So I'm not one of those people who demonizes carbs, but I do demonize ultra-processed foods that are broken down to where by the time they get into your system, it's basically sugar as soon as it hits the system. And when we
That book there, Deb?
Yeah. So I've tried, since I have arthritis, several different anti-inflammatory books, but I found this one to be really great. And you can see I have all the recipes marked up. It's by Michelle Babb. It's can you see it? Anti-inflammatory eating.
Can you, in the chat box, can you write the title and the author?
Yeah.
Perfect.
And then one other question for you, Deb, real quick. What would you say your chief complaint is right now regarding any pain or discomfort that you might be having?
Oh, my right knee and my hips.
Mm.
And it's just happened since COVID started, and it's probably that I'm not lifting weights like I was. I'm really good about moving, but I'm not lifting weights and doing my exercises like I should. And I think that's made a big difference.
It's my right knee and my right hip that has been the biggest chief complaint for me. I ended up having surgery on my right knee about 1.5 years ago. And that's why when I got up this morning and I was able to spring out of bed in a different way, I thought, whoa, this last little bit or I'm really focusing on my posture is making a difference. I didn't realize I had developed a habit of sleeping with my hip a little bit out of alignment compared to my left hip. I have become ultra focused on where the ball of my foot, of my right foot, is in relationship to my heel, and then where I line my right foot and my left foot up together.
Wow.
Yeah, and over the years, what was happening was my right leg was pulling back a little bit, which also meant that my hip was a little bit out of alignment. And I do this thing, and in Nia, we talk about directing energy, and we have this move called spear fingers. Kathy McElroy is another Nia teacher online, so she knows. And I've trained myself now that whenever I'm going to bend down or lean forward or something, that I use my hand like a spear to shoot out behind me to remind myself a line from, you know, shoulder, hip, knee, ankle. And it's becoming automatic now to keep myself in alignment. And I believe it is those things, that awareness that I brought to my posture and alignment, that has allowed me to tone down what's going on in my right knee and in my right hip. This stuff really works. Yeah. Thank you so much, Deborah, for bringing up this and for that recommendation on the book. I'm going to take a look into that. We're running really short on our time, but I'd love it if we could take maybe one more question. Does somebody have a question out there?
Any issues going on? Any pain points that you're thinking about, or just open to some coaching?
I'm looking at all of these comments.
Me. You want to pipe in there, girl?
I do have a question. Can you hear me?
Layla!
Oh, yes.
Hi, Yvonne.
Love, hello.
Hello. My question is around my dryness internally and externally. I know I'm drinking as much. I'm barely like drinking so much, but it doesn't change. And I know I'm going through that phase of menopause, which I think I'm probably done, but not sure 100%. So I'm trying to figure out, is there any natural way, because the OB is giving me all of those more non-natural ways of dealing with this, which I'm not sure it's the best thing. So have you, anyone has any maybe experiences or recommendations?
Yeah, well, Layla, the first thing I would consider or take a look at would be, what are the foods that you're eating, and are you eating foods that have lots of water in them, you know, themselves. And I would also pay attention to how much sodium you're getting, how much salt is entering into your food. And knowing you, I know that you eat a lot of natural food, and I'm pretty sure I know you don't go to McDonald's. Let me put it that way.
No, I don't.
Foods that you are preparing, especially with your two girls, do they tend to be processed a lot? Because you know, a lot of processed foods are either high in sugar or high in salt. That's just added without us, you know, putting any extra on.
Yeah, we cook all at home every day, and it's all the natural food. We try not to buy anything processed.
Okay. All right.
Basically, if I read the package and I can't even understand anything, I don't buy it.
Good.
No, that's very smart. You know, as we're going through the menopause and the hormones are changing, the estrogen levels definitely change quite a bit and will challenge the kidneys in different ways. And so if you're having certain foods or estrogen levels are dropping so low that your body is responding by trying to suck in all the water that it is getting, I would look at probably estrogen levels and in different foods, and maybe, I don't know, Deb, if you have any good insight on that, but it's definitely probably having to do with estrogen levels.
Oh, definitely it is. My estrogen level is low, and that's why I'm having those being given to me, like with estrogen. to use, but I'm not convinced when I read the contraindication is concerning. Like you can get cancer, uterus cancer. Like,
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's very smart of you.
Yeah. You know, other than continuing to drink water and maybe play with, does it help if you drink a lot? Or does it help if you only drink a little bit, but you do it a lot more often? That might be something to experiment with. Foods that might salivate a little bit more, that are maybe really tangy, might be something else. That would be the best that I could offer at this point without researching it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Yvonne.
You're welcome, and thanks for dropping in that question. I just real quickly want to go through some of these. Oh, Kathy, yes, Kathy McElroy said something about yes, due to dehydration. Magnesium. Susan Johnson said something about magnesium. I'm not sure what that was in response to.
It was the leg cramps.
Oh, leg cramps, of course. Yes, leg cramps. Thank you very much, Kathy. Oh, okay, Terry Roman, hello again, by the way. Hope you got your windows closed. Yeah, so the inflammatory foods, tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, eggplant. I was right about the eggplants. Okay, yeah, as well as meat. Hi, Teresa. Okay, Teresa is another NIA teacher. She's somebody who is just a lovely leader, guide of group movement. So thanks for joining. Yeah. Oh, she's telling us we did a great job. Yay, thank you. All right. Okay, good. All right. Hearing some good stuff. I'm thinking some people might have been having to drop off.
So Yvonne, Terry commented about suggesting some good sleeping positions to support low back and hips. And excellent question, Terry. Thank you very much. As we're talking, you had said about if you're always sleeping in the same position. And if you think about it, we are in bed hopefully for 7 or 8 hours. And if you don't move, that is a kind of overused thing. And if you're doing it every single day in the same position, yes, you're going to put a lot of pressure on your hips, and certainly mattresses or pillow position, maybe pushing your head a different way, will affect the whole system down the line. So learning to lay on your back and sleep on your back, definitely very valuable. And changing it up side to side, or maybe even changing the side of the bed with a space or something else is also valuable. It's been shown a lot to have body pillows where you can open out your knees so the hips are a little bit in greater alignment with you're on one side or the other, and having the pillow come up so you can kind of hug it. Maybe have a husband for that, I don't know, but so the shoulders, you're not crunching in on the shoulders so much, or your head's not cockeyed quite so much. Couple different ways to do that. Sleep apnea, if you're closing up airways, and certainly in the neck, chin down, so the head is supported, but on the side, opening up airways is another way to actually help. I'm gonna mute everybody. I see if I can mute everybody. Okay. And Anne, if you want to continue, you can unmute yourself. I think, yeah, okay. Yeah, thanks for pointing out that Terry was actually answering a question. I would say pay very close attention to where you're sleeping on your mattress. I tend to be a person who sleeps in one position all the time. And so I've had to change to the other side of the bed. And when it gets really bad, I had to get a new mattress. I will tell you one thing I learned the hard way, and that's probably why my right hip has been a challenge for me. As I was having issues with my knee before surgery, before and immediately after surgery, I had a pillow underneath that
that knee. So sometimes putting a pillow under both knees will work. My mistake, I put it only under one knee. And so my hip was also elevated. And I did that for months. And I think that's the issue that has caused my hip pain, that I'm slowly beginning to readjust with where my feet are in space.
That's such a good example, because one of my tests in neurokinetic therapy to look at the muscles in the low back that kind of go right next to the spine, they're called the multifidus, like little railroad tracks. And so you're laying on your back, and I'll put a pillow or a little towel underneath one hip to raise it up, and that shifts shifts which side of your back is kind of functioning, and then I'll see how well you can extend your leg down. And neurologically, if you're in that position for a long period of time, the brain gets used to that position and it will turn off certain muscles. So that's an excellent suggestion.
Yeah. So if
you're aware of your balance and what you're doing, so if you're always doing one thing, balance it out the other way. So
yeah. So if it's an issue of low back pain and you want to try putting a pillow under your knees, just make sure you do it under both knees.
Under both knees, yeah.
And then have the mindset to be curious and try different things. Yeah. Okay. So sorry, we don't have a chance to go on with any more Q&A.
Yes, flipping the mattress is a good idea. Certainly a few times a year. If you have a California King mattress that is outstandingly heavy, it's not so easy, and especially as we get older, and lifting it and turning it around. So maybe get somebody else, like a grandchild, to flip your mattress for you if you need to, or a young son or daughter or somebody else. So
we've done that a lot.
Is not an easy process, and I've seen so many shoulder injuries, back injuries, and knee injuries from flipping the mattress by yourself or with other people. So careful on flipping mattresses. It is a great idea, but
yeah,
nobody else to do it.
Just move to the other side of the bed like I do. Okay, so I'm hoping that some of these tips that we've been giving you will be of value. We've learned about these from working with our clients over the years. I know that I had a client who came to me because her chief pain was around the amount of stress that she was feeling. That was compounded, at work, compounding how she breathed, and also leading to her not having the best nutritional habits. She had a real sugar craving that she had to fight. And after a few months working with me, because it does take a process, it does take a while, she was able to adjust some of those lifestyle habits. She found time to spend some quiet time to mind her mind during the day, to bring a little bit of calm to her. She changed how she was breathing. We addressed some of what was going on with her for sleep, and lo and behold, after about 3 months, she felt calmer, her blood pressure went down, and she was able to fit a little bit more comfortably into her clothes. I know that Anne's got countless stories like that. Would you like to tell us about one of your clients?
Yeah, I definitely do. Meg came to me and was a skier and had a big fall and hurt her shoulder, hurt her wrist, and it was one of those yard sales kind of falls. And she had shoulder surgery, then wrist surgery, and then about 8 years later found a lump in her neck, and turned out it was a problem that had to be removed, and had to get radiation therapy after that. And so had a lot of limited motion with her neck, and basically she said she was a mess. And so a lot of fear of skiing again and moving and trouble breathing, and it was even taste was getting in the way. So started working together and kind of figuring out what muscles were working, what were not working, and what nutrition, what breathing patterns, what to be aware of over time, and how to make that process happen. And she, about 6-8 months later, because this was like that next winter, lo and behold, she came skipping into class one day and was so excited because they had gone skiing the weekend before with her family and was absolutely delighted to be able to keep up with her children, not let anybody slow her down, and without fear. Like she knew she could make her turns. She knew if it was icy conditions, where to go, and just felt stable and confident and to do an activity she loved. So it was just very, very rewarding to be able to help that along.
Yeah. So, you want to tell us about this, Anne?
Definitely. So we had talked earlier about, let's get this off my screen, excuse me. You know, having accountability and support and making any change, you know, look at things a lot like a mathematical equation and kind of where we are on understanding how the body works. And some people, you know, are calculus and trigonometry. Other people are addition and subtraction. And how, like we always set, you know, set the date, set a goal. What's your real trick to stay in line? But it's really the support and accountability from other people. And, you know, Rome's not built in a day. So good health is a process, and it does take conscious effort to think about where we're going every day, what you're eating, what all this stuff, and can get overwhelming, but it can be fun and joyful and enjoyable all at the same time. And the reward is you go outside, or for me, realizing I have no pain in my body. Oh my gosh, I feel great. Yeah, we're going out for a bike ride. We're going to do this. And, you know, moving, flipping a mattress around is, yeah, absolutely possible. So that's a real trick, is staying accountable and to have people alongside and a supportive group. That is a safe container.
Yeah, very much like what we've done today. I mean, I've learned things from Deborah, and I'm going to learn some things based on what Layla was saying. So having people along the way. And so that leads us into just this final part of our time together, because, you know, if you've liked what you have heard here, we want you to know that there is more, where that came from. And we are very excited to be able to offer you what we consider our next level training, where we can guide you into deeper mastery of these 5 things, plus a few others. I mean, we've only had 2 hours to spend here and look at what we've learned from each other. In our next level training, we'll have that additional opportunity to take a deeper dive. And so we've developed this perfect next step that we call Leap into Age-Defying Vitality, which is an 8-part video series that's going to allow you to move through and learn about your health at your own pace. So it's all about healing pain and discomfort. It's about being able to move with ease and fluidity. And we'll take a look at sleeping patterns and eating better, and learning to use inner reflection as a way to support and sustain your health. Anne, you want to tell us a little bit more?
Absolutely. The 8 weeks, Yvonne and I worked really hard on putting this together and coordinating how we learn, how we've changed and grow, but also the experience that we've gotten from several of our clients, and found ways that definitely work. And having 2 online group sessions, very much like we're having right now with both of us, going over some content, but really kind of diving a little bit deeper into assessment of what's going on for each individual person, so they can really get a handle on that. And then in between that, so we'll have one at the beginning, one at the end, and then 6 individual videos that we're going to put together that you can watch at your own pace throughout the time, with reference handouts and support training along the way of the 5 different components that we have control over, that we can work on to make choices. So
yeah, those 5 plus more. And we're going to offer this investment, or excuse me, this training for an investment of $497. So that's $497 for this 8-week training that we will spread out over the time. It's really, you know, we just want to drop each module, each separate week. And you're going to end up with at least 10 hours of training. And that's so that you can have the time that you need to make the changes, to have that mindset, or that curiosity mindset, to figure out what needs to, what works for you, what doesn't, what's sustainable for you. So it's an investment.
Yeah, implementation time is outrageously valuable.
Oh yeah, indeed, indeed. But we're going to throw something else in, because we're all about the fun. And within that time period, an additional bonus, we're putting this together now, we're going to make it so that you can teach yourself to juggle. Yes, and this is another great test of mindset. You're probably thinking, oh, I can't juggle, I can't do that. Well, I'm betting that you can. And there are all kinds of reasons why this is a good idea and why we wanted to put it with this package. It's because it's fun. It also builds brain agility. I picked it up again recently, and I couldn't believe, Anne said, Yvonne, you're on fire. What's going on? I had all these ideas just flying around in my head. So it really helps with that neuroplasticity that we talked about, but also just the brain agility. And it's going to hit every single one of these, well, 4 of the 5 things that we've been talking about today: breathing, posture, movement, mindset. I'm sure if we worked really hard, we could figure out a way to tie in nutrition with this as well. Juggling is actually used in leadership training programs, and it helps leaders learn how to focus on one thing at a time. We often talk about multitasking. Well, multitasking is overrated. But even if you do have to have multiple balls up in the air, you can really only focus on one at a time. So this is a nice metaphor, I think, to go along with it.
I would like to just put one thing out there, and I know you're on the call. Linda Shemansky, we have to learn how to juggle. So just saying, I want to juggle with you. And I just smile and laugh and have some fun. Remember our little kitties would be juggling all those little balls, and so thank you.
Yeah, but plus it's a good party trick.
It's a good party trick, exactly.
I've done it on a couple of Zoom birthday parties, where I know everybody's getting together on Zoom now for family, gatherings and everything. And just imagine bringing out your juggling balls and being able to juggle on screen. It really is a great little thing to do. So Anne and I are just over the moon appreciative that you've already invested your time with us today. And because of that, and because you've already taken that important step on your personal path of health, we think of you as our VIPs. And so we would be remiss if we did not offer you a VIP discount. And so that investment of $497 for you, we're throwing in a $100 discount. Yeah, because you're one of our VIPs now. So that's going to make that $497 equal to a total investment of $397. When you think back of everything that you've learned today through this complimentary training, imagine what we'll be able to do together when we can take that deeper dive.
And in addition to that, we have a little bit more for you too. And by reserving, making a commitment to this and to yourself by Sunday, which is July 5th, believe it or not, today is July 1st, so happy July 1st, Sunday, July 5th. We want to offer some laser coaching sessions that are a game changer. And if you just, we've been trained, Yvonne and I, to really listen and kind of guide and focus on some specific things just by hearing what's going on. And coaching sessions, every single person in the world will get value out of a coaching session. Even, the highest paid athletes have coaches that just give you a different perspective on things. So we want to offer some coaching sessions for folks that might want just that next step forward and where to go with that.
Yeah, and so a 30-minute coaching session with us, we put a value of that of $100. And if you sign up by July 5th, then that's yours for free when you invest in the Leap into Age-Defying Vitality program. And we've got another discount for you. Look at that. If you make a decision by July 5th, we're going to take off an additional $50, an additional VIP discount. And so now that means a total discount of $150. So $100 just for being here today. And then if you act by July 5, by Sunday, an additional $50. And that means that your final VIP investment will be $347. And get it while it's cheap.
But I know many of you have, done a lot of other programs before, and, certainly working one-on-one with other folks is significantly more. But the value, it's unbelievable what this is giving you. I think it's a really, from taking many courses and workshops myself and how much value I love to put into that. But once you kind of make that little decision to invest in yourself, you start changing immediately. It's such an incredible freedom, one of those things that we're looking for. So
yeah, you've already put that stake in the ground, and your brain
for yourself, and we only kind of need that right now.
That is what I've experienced. So I think, Anne, if you have a chance, you're going to drop a link into the chat box. So we've got two ways for you to enroll. You can either click on the link that's in the chat box that will take you to a special page that will tell you a little bit more about the training, and where you can put down your super VIP discount today. Both of us will be sending out emails. If you came to this call because you're on one of our lists, then you're going to get that in an email as well. And remember, you have until Sunday to respond. And the offer will still be out there. It's just that the VIP extra discount bonus will disappear after July. That's just totally up to you.
And I know Ellen is on the call. She may be our only Canadian, but happy Canada Day.
Oh yeah, happy Canada.
Sorry about that, Ellen. I forgot to acknowledge that.
Yeah, wonderful.
Earlier, so.
Thank you.
Canada Day, exactly. And we'll have, and any of you who don't know it, also Friday, Hamilton, the movie, is going to get debuted. So it's going to be an incredible thing. So we have a lot of fun things to do this weekend.
I heard it's on the Disney Channel, so I went.
It is. So you got to sign up for Disney.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to have to run through the rest of this. We are going to have an encore presentation in the form of a watch party. If you're on Facebook and you want to rewatch this video, then on Sunday, July 5th at 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern, Anne is going to host it on her website. This will also be in the email that we send to you. And then on Tuesday, July 14th in the evening. So if you've got some friends that were not able to attend or that you think would benefit from hearing this, then invite your friends, listen again, take some more notes. So these are our watch parties that we're excited to be able to offer to you. I think Anne's mother sent this picture to her, and I just had to put it in here. Ida Keeling, a 105-year-old sprinter, and she proves that you can achieve healthy aging. She's clearly part of the healthy aging revolution that Anne is wanting to start, and I personally think she looks like she's aging backwards. This is what I want to look like at 105. So at the start of today's course or session, we did ask you to, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident you felt about your ability to relieve aches and pains without medication. And I'm curious what you would say now. What would be that number if you were going to shout it out? And let me see if I can get here so that, ooh, that's the wrong thing. Okay, I want to go stop share. There we go. And unmute all. And let's hear. What would you say? What would your number be now? Got it.
I like that, Diane. Yeah, All right, Julie, you just have to smile, please.
Sorry, a 9.
No worries, no worries. Diane, yeah. Yeah, I
Okay.
know, we're also good at this anyway. Excellent.
All right. We have one more slide to share, and then we're going to bring it to an end. We've just gone just a few minutes over time. But yeah, we like this get busy living or get busy dying. Ellis boy, Red Redding from the Shawshank Redemption, and how funny that it is that he's called Red and she's wearing red. And I love it. So I just want to express my deep gratitude for being able to work with Anne, alongside Anne, over these last months, putting together this information, you know, solidifying this collaboration, because we both feel so very passionate about this concept of, you don't have to be complacent. You don't have to assume that this is, you know, there's only one path for you, for your health and for yourself as you age. We both have, you know, gotten onto another pathway, and we want to share what's worked for us, and we want to share what's worked for other clients with you, because we want you alongside us. Yeah, absolutely. And is there?
Yeah, no, thank you, Yvonne. I definitely want to acknowledge that. So Yvonne got this picture out of us, and I think it is like so perfect. And yeah, you know, my yellow bathing cap and her gorgeous yellow outfit, and it's very indicative of us, but yin and yang a little bit, but working together so beautifully on the same mission, on the same path of health and wellness. And yeah, it's been an incredible journey. So learning as we grow and growing as we learn. And we'd love to share that knowledge with all of you guys. So it's been a fun time. You know, I've been frustrated so many, you know, we've all had a lot of impact on a lot of people, but how to really kind of go deep and make a meaningful change to have impact not only on ourselves, but, you know, certainly on the world around us right now. So it's been great to be on this journey with you guys. Yeah. I hope it does continue.
Indeed. Okay. Well, we've come to the end of our presentation. And for those of you who are still on the line, one more invitation, just however it is that you're feeling right now, if you can sum it up in one word, what would that one word be?
Good.
Hopeful.
Hopeful.
Good, hopeful.
Inspired.
Yes. Excited for me.
Excited, hopeful. Who was the first one? I didn't hear the first one.
That was me. Good.
Oh, thank you, Julie.
All right. I can live with all of that.
Inspired.
Well, it's so great to have you here.
Thank you, Carolyn. All right. I'm going to stop the recording, and I'll just tell you that, you know, if any of you had some questions that we couldn't get to, we're happy to answer them. But I'm going to stop the recording here and say goodbye to everybody who's going to watch us on our watch party.
Bye. Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you, Anne.
So great to have all you guys, Deb. Thank you.
Have a great night.